Hey, I'm Rob, and welcome to my lab. I've been experimenting with OpenAI's new Atlas browser, and today I'm going to share some of the things I've been doing with it, my thoughts about Atlas, and whether I plan to switch to Atlas and use it as my default way to experience the internet. First, let's get the obvious question out of the way. What is Atlas? I think the best way to describe Atlas and similar agent-based web browsers is that they invert the relationship between AI features and the browser. So today we can already add AI extensions to web browsers like the Microsoft Copilot extension that adds AI assistant features to improve search and help analyze and understand the content we're using in the web browser. On the other hand, Atlas aims to be the AI application that uses a web browser as its presentation layer. It's a subtle but huge difference, and the main reason why Atlas exists at all. Atlas uses Chromium as its web browser, much the same way Edge does, so the web content experience isn't significantly different. The difference is that we're interacting with Atlas as an AI orchestrator, and it's using Chromium as an agentic tool, rather than us, the user, being the orchestrator, and the web browser being a human driven tool. The promise of this design is that the app we use to experience web content will be put in the driver's seat like a chauffeur, rather than being an assistant in the back seat. OpenAI isn't the first company to ship a product using this paradigm. Perplexity Comet has been in preview for a while, and it's built on a similar design. Other frontier model providers like Microsoft and Google have the skills to create similar products and likely will follow suit if this paradigm shows it has traction. I wanted to see if this web browser paradigm really enhanced my web browsing experience, or was it a gimmick? So I took Atlas for a test drive with some real world use cases to see how it works and compare it with using a conventional web browser. I also did a comparison to using Perplexity's comment agent mode, so come along and let's take a look together. The first use case is just summarizing reviews on a product page. This is something existing AI add-ins like Copilot can do with their eyes closed, so I didn't expect this to be too challenging. I pulled up the Trek website, looked for an Elant Plus commuter e-bike, and asked Atlas to read through all the reviews and summarize the top 3 likes and top 3 dislikes across the 80 plus reviews. Atlas did this quickly and easily, but this is a pretty simple task. Microsoft Edge with the Copilot extension can do this easily too, and if I duplicated this task with Edge and Copilot, I got similar results. Not identical, but I would have been happy with either result. To take things up a notch, my next test was to see if Atlas could find a product for me on Amazon, pick the seller with the best price, and add it to my Amazon shopping cart. I do a lot of bike touring, and my favorite touring saddle is the Brooks B17. I know the best price for the saddle is usually on Amazon, but there are a lot of seller options. I won't even go to the Amazon site. I'll just ask Atlas to find the best price for a B17 leather saddle on Amazon and add it to my cart. And let's see what it does. So I like the way Atlas showed its work along the way. The experience is almost like sitting in the passenger seat watching someone else drive your car. It also adds chain of thought details in the side panel along the way, which is pretty cool. So how did it do? And I think it did great, actually. It selected a genuine product, it picked the best price, it even noticed that buying a return product would be a better price. Atlas did what I would have done, and it left the item in my cart just as I asked. I was curious how Comet would have used its agent mode to do the same task, so let's take a look. I used the same prompt for Comet, and the process was nearly identical, although Comet and Atlas take a slightly different approach to UX. Both showed the chain of thought as the agents completed the product search, but Comet showed the web browser as a thumbnail next to a chain of thought that was detailed text, while Atlas showed the browser full screen with chain of thought as sidebar notation. I personally like the Atlas approach better, but I think both ways are a good way to provide visual feedback and probably would have been happy either way. For a final comparison, I asked Copilot and Edge to complete this task. Copilot was able to identify the product, but it selected a higher priced option and it wasn't able to add the item to my cart automatically. It did give me an instruction on how to add it to the cart myself. For the last use case, I wanted to give Atlas a multi-step, somewhat complex task that would require multiple tool jobs and multiple outputs. Planning a mountain bike trip takes a fair bit of time. I have to consider the weather, the trail selection, where to eat, where to stay. So let's see if Atlas can do all this work and just give me a detailed trip proposal. So here I'm planning a trip to the single track trails in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And for this test, I'm going to prompt Atlas to plan the trip with the following constraints. I want a date in the near future that will be the warmest weekend with the least likelihood of rain. I want to select a single track trail in Hot Springs to ride 25 miles. I want to plan the best route to drive from Ann Arbor to Hot Springs. I want to have it suggest where to eat after the trail ride, and then also suggest a place to stay the night before and then for the night after the ride. So, and after all that is done, I wanted to summarize the plan and then open tabs to the trail, the restaurant, and the driving directions so I can look at it myself. So going through this research manually, pretty time consuming. I might spend, an hour looking through trail descriptions, reading hotel restaurant reviews, plotting out driving directions, and so on. It is tedious, but it's necessary. So starting Atlas on this job, as I watched, it basically did what I would have done manually. I got kind of bored watching this, so I went to make a cup of coffee, returned 10 minutes later, and it was done. So the summary was ready for me to review. And Alice didn't open the trail and restaurant tabs for me, but it did provide links. And when I clicked on the links, the right tabs opened as I expected. So, other than needing to open the tabs manually, the results were just what I had asked for in my prompt. So I wondered, was this better than I could achieve with an Edge browser and Microsoft Copilot extension? So I tried that. So I put the same prompt into Copilot, and it didn't actually produce similar results. But I have some observations. First, Copilot generated an answer much faster, so that was actually pretty cool. But on the other hand, it didn't do that much research. The results are more like summarized search results than they are like thoughtful research, that I would have done myself. For example, Copilot just sort of looked up the weather forecast, but when I read the Atlas results, it actually researched historical climate information, which is a little more detailed. Atlas and Copilot both suggested the same day, so I would have gone on the same day, but Atlas definitely put in more effort into that recommendation. Edge found a web page with restaurant recommendations, and that's what it showed me, and it gave me the first one on that, or the restaurant that's the first there. Um, but Atlas also really looked at like where's the trail and where are the restaurants and gave me more of a proximity-based recommendation. I would have done that too. While both Copilot and Atlas use Google Maps to calculate driving distance, and they seem to do it similarly, Copilot just kind of provided a link to Google Maps. It didn't have any route planning at all that I had asked for. I'm not sure if that was a bug, but it was disappointing. Okay, what does this all mean? So, do Atlas and Comet have some kind of game-changing take on what a web browser should be, or are they just gimmicks? Will I switch to either of these browsers, or just stick with Edge and Safari, which is what I usually use? And I mean, color me impressed, I guess, right? So, I think Atlas and Comet are showing the future of web browsers, and two things I saw that really lead me to that conclusion. And they're both game changing, and they're actually kind of the same thing. But first was that Atlas was able to do much more on my behalf, and that made it more capable. I mean, it just was. For example, it added the bike saddle to my cart, which Copilot said it couldn't do. And if I had really trusted Atlas more, I could have just told it to go ahead and place the order and then just check the email confirmation from Amazon, et cetera, as my human in the loop component. I didn't do that, but as I use it more, I might actually start doing things like that. Second, Atlas did deep research for both products on Amazon and the trip locations. And by doing this, it generated better results in both use cases. I attribute this mainly to agent mode. Atlas wasn't just doing web searches, it was using AI to navigate a path through the web, looking for the specific information that I wanted to find. So my take is overall that agent mode is the game changer, at least for now. Much of what Atlas did, Copilot can do, summarizing and organizing search results. They both can do it. Very important AI features in a web browser, but Atlas used this agent mode to get in the driver's seat and really get things done rather than just advising me what I should do next. So that leads me to, will I keep using Atlas? And I think absolutely I'll keep using Atlas. Just as agent mode in GitHub Copilot was a game changer for using AI encoding, which I use, agent mode in a web browser will change how we use web browsers to help complete tasks. So I'm all in on that. Do I think Atlas has something that Microsoft and Google won't have eventually? No, not at all. I mean, Copilot Edge is very capable. Microsoft has already implemented this very effective agent mode in GitHub Copilot. And especially if Atlas is a hit, I'd expect to see similar human in the loop agentic capabilities added to Edge based on the Copilot engine. So that's my take on Atlas. Agentic mode in browsers is definitely something I'll be using, and I think there's a lot that OpenAI has got right with their implementation. There are other capabilities of Atlas I haven't dug into yet, like its personalization of memory and context. As I use those features, I'll include those in future videos, so stay tuned.